Okay, we're back for another one. This one's going to be a real doozy in the sense that I am deigning to suggest that Plato was wrong, that the ideal realm is complete bullshit. Me, Joe in 2024 that no one takes seriously, who has a YouTube channel, is going to debunk Plato, but I believe that I'm going to do it successfully, and I don't think it's that hard to do. And by the way, if you're distracted by my blue tongue, I just had a slushie. So let's get into it though. I want to lay a foundation here real quick. For those who didn't hear my Reclaiming the Goddess series. It's a short 4-part series, and I may end up adding more to it some other time. But I want to do it separately here, because this video goes kind of to the heart of what I think is wrong with metaphysics, going all the way back to ancient classical Greece, right? So if I could boil it down, what I have come to understand, what I've come to realize, is that no metaphysical worldview is going to work. It's not going to be innately, it cannot hold together. If we don't recognize one fact, that God is a person. What a lot of quantum scientists, quantum physicists, and philosophers, modern philosophers, or really philosophy in general, going back thousands of years, one of the things they cannot comprehend and really refuse to entertain is the idea that the very ground of reality is a person, because they can't, for whatever reason, imagine personhood apart from something that is anthropomorphic. For them, a person is just an anthropomorphic entity. And that we have to get away from the language of personhood in order to articulate the fact that God is just is the fabric of all that there is, that God is the fabric of the entire universe, which Hermeticism recognizes that, and Platonism recognizes that. So do I. God is the fabric of everything, the fabric of the universe. But he's also the universe's cause. So he transcends it while also being it. So I don't have an issue with that. Let me go ahead and just briefly describe and explain what I described in the other series about my position, which I'll make it like really simple, like I'm talking to a bunch of kids, okay, instead of going off in this like heady cerebral direction like I have been lately. God, okay, in order for a person, by definition, to exist, a person is, by definition, a being that has two things. It has a spirit, or what I'll call the mind, or the nous, or the intellect, which is not the brain, it's not the reasoning faculty, it's something else. A spirit and a body. And I don't distinguish soul and body. I'm actually kind of more or less saying that they're the same thing. A body is inherently soulish, and the soul is embodied. So I would use those terms more or less interchangeably. The spirit is distinct from the body in that it is the center of the body. It is that which indicates the radical subject. It is where the deepest intuition lies. It is where pure awareness lies. The fact that we are aware of the self, which is something not even animals can do, it indicates the spirit. And I said that the spirit, pure awareness, corresponds to the masculine archetype, or the God, and the body or consciousness, which I am not equating with pure awareness or the spirit. It's different. That corresponds to the feminine archetype, or the goddess. And what I'm essentially saying is that in order to, from all eternity, harmonize oneness or singularity with multiplicity or distinction, you need a person within whom is multiplicity. In that very multiplicity, that distinction between the divine goddess and the divine God actually constitutes the oneness or unity or singularity of the divine person. So once you recognize multiplicity as that which constitutes the singularity, which can only be done if we conceive of God as a person, it begins to answer a lot of other questions, which we're not going to be able to get into here. But I will kind of hint at it as we go. I'll actually explicitly describe in one particular way how it does affect other things. And then over time, as we make more videos, I'll be able to show how it affects everything from, ethics to, whatever. But basically, what I'm saying is that if you try to harmonize the one and the many in non-personal terms, you are going to be stuck with a non-differentiated oneness which in the end is just another way of talking about an infinite void. And you can't get something from nothing. So you can't have this sort of radical or extreme monism within which there is no distinction. Because then without distinction, without this uncaused eternal distinctiveness within God, nothing can come out of that, so you can't have a manifested realm. You can't have a creation. The cosmos wouldn't exist. You couldn't get it to exist. And on the other hand, if you have a multiplicity of things that are uncaused and not constitutive of the one principle, and they're just kind of out there floating around, they're uncaused, eternal, like God himself, now you're just stuck with like basically an absolute polytheism. So where we go from here is in recognizing this, we have to understand that when we evaluate Platonism, Platonism is essentially doing the same thing, right? It's working it's working with purely impersonal categories. And it's trying to understand reality in terms of the assumption that reality is impersonal. And so Plato creates this transcendental realm, the realm of ideas or forms, upon which, that is this sort of blueprint upon which the world of shadows, or our world, the manifest world, is based. So our world, this shadow world, is essentially in Platonism an analog of that transcendental realm of ideas. And one of the things that has become clearer and clearer for me of late is that the critique I made of J. Dyer's cosmology can also be leveled against Platonism. Because you have these two realms that mirror each other, and yet they are dualistically infinitely apart, in that one is eternal and non-contingent while the other is temporal and contingent. There's no way to reconcile those. And again, as I mentioned, since in Platonism the forms or ideas are No, they're plural, and they are pre-existent and uncaused, just like this ideal world in the mind of God, as Jay Dyer put it. They would have to be divine. They would have to be, and in no way dependent. They're independent in their eternality, not dependent on the Creator. They're not eternally caused, they're eternally uncaused. And so they would be co-equal with the Creator. And therefore they would be God, just like the Creator. So you end up with polytheism, and you end up with a radical dualism. So I'm still working on how to flesh all of this out and articulate it, but I will hint at my position by saying that I believe that when God conceives of the things that exist, they simultaneously, at the instant that he conceives them, they simultaneously take on flesh, so to speak. He clothes them and gives them existence. He brings them into being. So it's not like, God is not like us, where we come up with a cool idea and then we move on to a second stage where we bring that idea to fruition and create something out of that idea. It's not like a two-step or two-stage process. God doesn't exist within time. So when God conceives of something, he is simultaneously determining and intending that that thing should be. So there aren't two realms. The ideas within God are just what you see in this created reality, in this manifested reality. Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying that there is no sense in which the Hermetic or Platonic ideal realm is true. I believe that in basically, just to keep this brief, everything within the manifest realm is in some way a reflection or mirror of the way in which God is in his own being. So you still have that principle of as above, so below. But you can discard this whole absurd notion of a realm of ideas. You don't need that to explain how manifest reality reflects God, or reflects the infinite, or reflects the eternal, which is simply the divine person. The cosmos on the whole reflects God, as above, so below, because it is a reflection. The manifest realm is known, for example, in Hindu philosophy as the realm of duality, because even though duality is not true in the ultimate sense, duality must exist. whenever you manifest something, bring something into manifestation, whenever God brings something into manifestation, that realm must give the appearance that reality is dual. And that's why we get multiplicity. That's why we have lots of different types of objects and different types of persons, and everything seems to be separate, when in reality we're all one. So that, but in spite of that, at the micro level, at this dual level, the cosmos the manifested cosmos reflects the infinite body of God, which is just made up of consciousness, which I believe is more or less, you can think of it as an infinite energy field, out of which springs, within the eternal, all the things that we see in the manifest realm. Like an ocean, you have this ocean, let's say this perfectly placid, tranquil, seemingly endless ocean, without any appearance of difference or distinction within it. And then suddenly a wind rises up and blows over it. And now you have many different waves, and you have many different ripples, and so on and so forth. Now you've got differentiation springing up within this seemingly non-differentiated field. And that is because there's already a pre-existing uncaused difference in God himself between his body, which in my analogy is the vast ocean, and his spirit, which interpenetrates that ocean, his nous. Okay, I'm going to leave it here because I don't really think there's a whole lot more I could add on that. Everything else now, from science to ethics to you name it, is going to whatever standards we come up with in ethics and so on will arise as inferences, direct inferences from the basic axiom that God is a person, and from the definition of a person, the definition of a person that I just gave, that a person is constituted by those two things, spirit and body. And I believe that we can come up with a quite consistent ethic, without it being, like this Abrahamic, highly litigious standard. It's rather going to flow from what we know about the nature of God, and the nature of non-duality being that which holds together, and from time immemorial, the singularity of God's person and the aspects, plural, that make up that singularity. Okay, have a good day. I'll probably be making one or two others today, depending on how I feel, maybe more. We'll just see how it goes.